though? Because his statement is
Wack 100's been yelling snitch at everybody for years, but now a leaked wiretap, supposedly dropped by 21 Savage, got folks digging up that old 2005 federal gun case again. What if Wack been playing both sides this whole time? Let me break it down for you. Picture this: a dude running his mouth day and night, calling everybody a rat, then he opens his wallet. And for just a second, a cop badge slips out. That 1 second might have blown his whole cover. But here's the real twist. It's not just about whether that badge was real or not. It's about who might have leaked the tape. People out here saying 21 Savage himself dropped it, and not just on accident either. Like, he been sitting on this, waiting for the right moment to strike. You can't even blame him though, cause Wack been dragging his name through the mud for years. Wack called him a snitch, claimed he cooperated with ICE to keep his papers straight, even tried to tie him into that whole YSL drama. And through it all, 21 kept it cool, said a few things here and there, but mostly stayed quiet and kept moving. But this? If 21 really let that tape loose, that wasn't just payback, that was chess. After years of Wack sneak dissing him on Clubhouse, he finally clapped back, without even saying a word, like he just had enough already. And if you really connect all the dots over the years, it sure looks like Wack been pointing fingers at everybody else just so nobody would start looking too close at him. And this ain't even the first time someone accused Wack of being tied to the feds. Just a few months back, reports dropped that Big U got hit with RICO charges. But here's where it gets real messy. Before Big U even turned himself in, he called Wack 100 out on video, straight up saying he's working with the FBI. That's when everything started feeling fishy. Even before the RICO made the news, before the arrests, before the paperwork dropped, Wack already knew what was about to happen. He hit up Big U's wife, sent her a message that was basically like 911. He needs to get out now. That's shady, bro. Before Big U even got cuffed, Wack was already blowing up his wife's phone. That didn't look like a warning. That looked like a setup wearing a warning's clothes. Like he already knew the raid was coming, cause he helped make the call. And the wildest part, after Big U got booked, Wack jumped online and started talking slick, trying to flip the whole thing. He accused Big U of being the one moving dirty, even claimed Big U had a BlackBerry he used to talk to the feds. But instead of clearing anything up, all that did was make folks raise their eyebrows even higher. Like,
God damn, Triple O.
Been 3
Obviously,
years.
you ain't going to court because you was going to court.
Triple O.
Every time you go to court, they gonna let us know you going to court. So
I can't go to court for immigration if I got an open gun
what
case,
about
fool.
the gun case, bull?
I can't go to court for immigration if I got
They
an
will
open
give
gun
you
case,
your
man.
time.
how is he always the first one to know? How is he always right in the middle of the storm, but never the one getting wet? That call to Big U's wife didn't feel like no favor. It felt like a man trying to play both sides, warning the same guy he just lined up, staying close enough to the fire to feel the heat, but never getting burned. And that's when people really started seeing Wack different. Like maybe he ain't no watchdog after all, but more like a snake hiding in plain sight. And all this we're seeing today, it really goes way back to something that popped off in 2005. Word on the street is Wack 100 and his brother got pulled over in Texas. Nothing crazy at first, just a speeding stop. Cops walk up, ask the usual questions, and Wack tells them they're on their way to a funeral in Oklahoma. Then the officers ask if they can search the car. Wack says no. So they bring in a K9 unit, and that dog goes off. They end up finding a shotgun, a rifle, and a pistol, all loaded and ready. Here's where it gets real hard to ignore. Wack and his brother were already convicted felons. That's federal time right there. No questions, no debate. You don't just walk away from a case like that. That kind of bust ends whole careers before they even take off. But somehow, Wack posted bail and slid right back to LA like nothing even happened. Then, silence. 2 whole years. No court updates, no headlines, nothing. Then out of nowhere with the whole case, dismissed. And not because of no weak evidence or some legal slip-up either. The court straight up wrote it was dismissed in the interest of justice. Now hold up. Anybody who knows how the system works, especially when it comes to felons with guns, knows that phrase, "don't just show up by accident." That ain't no mercy move. That usually means somebody handed something over in return. Later, Wack tried to explain it away. Said the search was illegal, and that's why the case got tossed. But that was all cap. Court records were public. No mention of an illegal search, no mistakes by the cops, just case dismissed, clean and quiet, like he never even got caught. And the timing. That's the part that really haunts this whole story. Just a couple years after Wack's case mysteriously vanished, Suge Knight, Wack's old boss at death row, started feeling the heat from the feds. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Suge's name landed on a gang injunction. His whole circle got torn apart. Wiretaps, raids, names popping up all over the paperwork. But Wack? Not even mentioned. Not one single time. Then the Main Street Crips got snatched up in that wild kidnapping case tied to Shaq. Yeah, that case. And in the transcripts, a guy named Wack shows up, leaving voicemails, making calls, and word on the streets been saying for years that Wack was really Wack 100. Now fast forward to today, Wack all over the internet, calling out Gunna, BG, Brick Baby, 21, even Jay Diggs. Acting like he's the street's moral compass or something. But let's keep it real. That 2005 case, it don't match up with the image he keeps pushing. You don't just walk away from a federal gun charge, 3 illegal weapons in the trunk as a convicted felon, unless you're either the luckiest dude on the planet or you handed something over. And now, when folks see that police ID flash in that leaked video almost 20 years later, it all comes flooding back. Not just the badge, not just the beef, but that one question that never really went away. What did he trade to walk away that clean? And that's the craziest part. Wack been building his whole brand off this tough street persona, but the crack's been showing for years.
And I just want to say this to y'all. When they raided my houses and my property, they was asking about Wack. Wack, loose cannon, 600, and this internet stuff.
There's one word Wack loves more than anything: snitch. That's his go-to insult. Anytime a rapper gets locked up or takes a plea, Wack's the first one on Clubhouse screaming they folded. He did it with Gunna, claimed he had a whole 2-hour interrogation tape and even threatened to leak it if Gunna didn't come clean. But he never dropped nothing, just sat there running his mouth. Then he came for BG too, a dude who already sat down for over a decade and kept his head up. Wack claimed BG snitched too, but there was no paperwork, nothing. Even BG's old cellmate spoke up and said BG held it down and never folded once. But Wack, he didn't care. He kept on talking. No receipts, no proof, just noise. And yeah, on the surface, it works. To folks who don't look too close, he seems like he's holding some moral line. But the ones really paying attention, they started noticing the pattern. Wack's loudest when he's trying to deflect. Every time heat comes his way, he starts pointing fingers somewhere else. And another thing, Wack records everybody. That's not how real ones move. You don't record every single conversation unless you're planning to use it later or hand it over to someone. Folks starting to catch on to that too. And here's the kicker. Some of the rappers Wack brought onto Clubhouse ended up catching cases after. Loose Cannon, for example. He went on there, talked way too much, and later got jammed up. Wack's moves ain't looking as slick as he thinks, and people starting to wake up. Now people are starting to ask, was Wack setting folks up to talk reckless on purpose? Was he making these clips go viral just so prosecutors could swoop in and finish the job? It's all starting to feel way too coordinated, from the way he baits people into arguments to how these leaks magically drop right when they benefit him. Not everything's hard proof, but the pattern, that's real hard to ignore. At some point, you gotta stop and really look at that pattern. This leaked video might have lit the flame, but it didn't just pop out of nowhere. This been building for years. From that 2005 case that disappeared clean, to him knowing about the RICO before the feds even moved, to his name showing up on Wiretap mentions, the badge flashing, even the way he records everybody.
Yeah, after you got
It don't just look messy, it looks calculated. And the more people piece the timeline together, the more it feels like Wack been hiding right there in plain sight this whole time. Because if all these people he's accusing of snitching were really doing what he claims, there'd be paper trails, there'd be receipts. But the only one who keeps popping up in situations where cases vanish, people get exposed, or the feds already know way too much, is him. And that's what makes this different. It's not just about proving if he's a fed. It's about asking, what does it mean if he really is? What does that say about the stories we buy into? About the people we keep giving platforms to? People might laugh about it online, but trust, it ain't funny. And here's the thing, Wack don't even flinch when folks bring all this up. Every time somebody presses him about the badge, the wiretaps, or that 2005 case, he just laughs it off like it's all just hate. But people ain't stupid anymore. They're connecting dots, and it's getting harder for him to talk his way out. More and more folks are starting to wonder if all those clubhouse rants were really just smoke screens to keep eyes off his business. He points fingers at Gunna, BG, 21 Savage, J Diggs, calling them all rats, but then ends up being the only one walking away clean every time. And remember, the streets got rules. Recording convos, sending warnings to wives, popping up in paperwork, but never catching charges yourself, that don't sit right with nobody paying attention. Even some of the OGs started to speak out quietly, saying something don't add up with that dude. The craziest part, Wack still doubling down, still hopping on Clubhouse, still calling people out, still claiming he's the realest in the room. Meanwhile, that leaked video, the court records, and all these little moments keep piling up against him. And this time, it's looking like the streets are finally waking up. If this man really has been working with them all these years, playing both sides, lining people up while keeping his hands clean, what does that mean for everybody he's been around? How many lives did he help wreck just to keep himself safe? At some point, you gotta wonder, is Wack the loudest one in the room because he's hiding the biggest secret? And now, with all eyes on him, the streets are starting to talk louder than ever. Folks digging deeper into old videos, old audio clips, even social media posts. And what they're finding just keeps raising more questions. People pulling up that footage of Wack arguing on Clubhouse where he accidentally slips and says things like, "I already knew what was gonna happen," and "I told them how to move." Like he's been guiding situations behind the scenes the whole time. Some even claim there's a pattern in how certain rappers ended up indicted not long after getting into it with him online.
Going through it, I said, yeah, I don't know nothing about this. He said, man, y'all too tight. I see Big U signature. I see other signatures. I'm reading it. And what shook me was the police issued device to communicate with law enforcement in form of a BlackBerry.
It's like every time Wack starts beef with somebody, they somehow end up in court or on the radar. But he never does. That's got folks saying, yo, how does he stay so close to the fire and never get burned? And what's wild is, instead of falling back, Wack keeps fanning the flames. He's doubling down on interviews, dropping more names, daring people to check him. But now, even people who used to defend him are starting to back away slowly, like they don't want to be next on the list. Some are even saying Wack's whole brand, the tough talk, the rat hunting, the internet beef, was never about principle. It was about control, about keeping himself untouchable while everybody else took the fall. Now the streets are watching closer than ever. And every little move he makes feels like it could be the one to finally expose him for good. Because at this point, it ain't just about calling him out. It's about figuring out how many people already got caught in his web without even knowing it. And just when you think it can't get any messier, here comes the latest twist. Word is, a few folks close to Wack are starting to break their silence. Quiet whispers turning into loud accusations, saying he's been playing this game way longer than anybody realized. One dude who used to roll with him even claimed Wack coached him on what to say in meetings, told him to keep certain names out of conversations, and even warned him to act dumb if they asked questions. That kind of talk makes people wonder, who exactly was he protecting? And who was he setting up? People now digging up stories from way back, like how certain beefs just magically disappeared when Wack got involved, or how charges on some of his associates vanished overnight while others went down hard. It's painting a picture that's hard to ignore. A man moving pieces like a chessboard, staying 10 steps ahead while everybody else thinks it's just chaos. And while all this unfolds, Wack keeps posting, keeps talking, like nothing can touch him. But even his own camp looks uneasy now. You can see it in their faces during live streams, in their silence when his name comes up in rooms. The streets are buzzing louder than ever, asking the real questions. How many people did he sacrifice to stay clean? How deep does this go? And if the truth really comes out, how many careers, how many lives will it take with it?
Give you some time. I don't know, 24 hours, 12 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 1 hour. I don't know. I'm gonna give you some time though, Gunner, for you to go ahead on and confess.
At this point, people ain't just watching Wack. They're watching everybody around him, waiting to see who cracks first. And now, the energy's shifting. You can feel it. Folks who used to ride hard for Wack are starting to keep their distance. People who once swore by his name are suddenly quiet, deleting old posts, unfollowing him on the low. Like they know something's coming and don't want to get caught in the crossfire. Even the blogs and podcasts that used to eat up his clubhouse rants are starting to turn on him. Instead of giving him a platform, they're replaying his old words and asking tough questions. Why does he always know what's coming before anyone else? Why does his name never show up on paperwork, except when it magically disappears? And now, more clips are surfacing. Old conversations where he slipped up, old beefs that didn't make sense at the time, but now fit perfectly into the bigger picture. People piecing it all together like a puzzle, and the image they're seeing ain't looking good for him. Some even saying the feds don't need to move on him because he already serving them exactly what they need. That idea alone got the streets on edge, questioning everybody they thought was solid. Through it all, though, Wack stays loud, posting, talking, pointing fingers, as if staying noisy will keep the heat off him. But the louder he gets, the more people listen, and the more they start to realize just how much smoke he's been blowing all these years. Now it feels like a countdown, the streets watching, the walls closing in, and everyone waiting for the day Wack finally has to answer. Not just to the people he's accused, but to everybody he fooled along the way. No more. Not when real lives keep getting twisted up behind this kind of slick manipulation. Wack been out here calling everybody else a snitch, but now the streets are looking sideways at him. People asking if the loudest voice in the room was wired from the very start. Because if he was, this whole game been compromised for years. And the scariest part, he ain't even laying low. He's still out here talking. And whatever he says next might just be the final piece that blows this whole thing wide open. So what do you think? Was Wack playing both sides all along? Drop your thoughts in the comments, smash that like button, share this with your people, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. See you on the next one.